Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education by Kate Colbert and Joe Salustio with contributions by Elvin Freites is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Get your Kindle edition or your softbound book. It's going to be
amazing.
If you're someone who's passionate about transforming education, which you are if you're listening to this podcast, you should check out the Charles Koch Foundation. The Charles Koch Foundation supports social entrepreneurs and organizations that are embracing innovation to build better solutions for today's learners. Visit ckf.org to learn more. Welcome back to everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you here on another episode. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening right now. Did my co-founder, Elvin Freites, just jump in the middle of my introduction? Is that what just happened here, Elvin? Did you crash?
Yeah, Joe, I'm so sorry. I just got the message that you may have wanted me to jump in on this one, so I'm jumping in. How you doing?
Oh, wow. Look at this. You know what, Elvin? I sent you an email saying, hey, do you want to jump in and talk with me and our guest today? And, you never email me back ever. So I didn't know if you were going to show up.
Well, surprise. Here I am. I mean, I had to be here for Lisa, of course. Oh, sorry. Oh, did I already mess it up? See?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man. Dude,
an epic failure. Epic failure. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-founder and I guess surprise guest co-host, co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast, Elvin Freites, is already screwed up, and we're not even 30 seconds in. An epic failure by saying the name of my guest. I didn't even introduce her yet. What I was going to do before I introduced my guest was tell everybody that we are literally, as you hear this podcast come out, probably about 2 to 3 weeks away from releasing our book, Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, with the insights of 100 plus college and university presidents taken directly from the interviews on this podcast, co-written with Kate Colbert with contributions by Elvin Freites. It will be out in late November, and we cannot wait. Isn't that right, Elvin?
Oh, yes, sir. We cannot wait. And it's going to be awesome. Just FYI.
Yes. Awesome is one word to describe it. The other word I would use to describe it is you know well and have heard well on this podcast.
Amazing.
It's going to be amazing. And one thing that is also going to be amazing today is our conversation with our guest. This is actually her second time here on the podcast. She's returned.
Come on, put your hands up in the air.
For Lisa Gevelber. She's Chief Marketing Officer for the Americas region, founder and Vice President of Grow with Google. Here she is. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, guys. Great to be here again.
Oh, it's a standing ovation. Lisa, Grow with Google is going crazy. How are you, and how are you keeping it all together? That's the first question.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we're doing great over here. We're always so inspired by the people that we get to work with on Grow with Google, the students that we serve, and it just gets more and more exciting for us the more people we get to engage with.
I bet. And there's more and more and more. And that's my first question, Lisa. We had you, I don't know, it's been like a year. We were talking before we started recording. It's like another lifetime, a year and a half ago, whenever it was, we talked the first time. We are getting older as the years go here. And that was probably like in the first 100 episodes, and we're at 500 now, this podcast. So you think about all the things that have happened in the last couple of years with pandemic, with Grow with Google emerging, and hundreds of thousands of students going through your system now. But how do you, I look at your titles and I go, how do you do this? How are you Chief Marketing Officer for the Americas region and founder and Vice President of Grow with Google? What does that balance look like? How do you, and there has to be so many competing things for your time and how to balance all this together.
Well, like anyone else, I think the way you get things done is you have an amazing team, and I am certainly blessed with one of those. We're just, oh yeah, we're in both jobs. Really, our mission is to really help our users, and on the Grow with Google side, a lot of those users are people who are either trying to get a great start to their career, or people who are ready to make a career change and just want to get the skills they need to get into the job they really want to have. And so that's our daily inspiration, is focusing on the people that we can help, and really focusing on how do we create access to great jobs for more people.
You know, we're going to talk about a really big announcement that you guys have had recently in terms of partnership and such. But can you talk a little bit about, before I pass it to Elvin, what stories do you hear? You must get some stories through the grapevine that roll up to you of people whose lives have been changed, or companies who've been able to hire folks that have gone through the Grow with Google certificate pathways. What keeps your engine going? Because you talk about access a lot, and so there's a passion there. So are there stories that resonate you? Do you get to hear these life-changing stories?
Yeah, one example for our team that's kind of local for us here in Northern California is a person named Ray Justo. And Ray was one of many people, of course, affected by COVID. He lost his job as a fireplace installer, and as a result lost his home. And
Wow.
so he and his whole family ended up moving in actually with his grandparents. But luckily, the Workforce Board in Sacramento was offering the Google Career Certificates as a way for people to reskill for jobs. And Ray's so motivated and energized, and he did the Google Career Certificate for IT support and ended up getting a great job at a company in Sacramento, and now has been able to move out of his grandparents' house and take his family back to a new home.
Wonderful.
Love stories like that, because it does show, what happens if the Google certificates weren't there as a net for him to catch him, and what happens, right? It's something that we don't like to think about, but having these different types of pathways, these certificates, the higher education in general, different learning pathways, or post-secondary education, as I like to refer to it. There's got to be safety nets. There's got to be ways for people to upskill and reskill. And Elvin, our goal here on EdUp is, of course, to make education your business. And you popping in today makes it your business and our business.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. What a wonderful story that is, Lisa. Thanks for sharing. So another story that I'm very curious to learn, and I think our listeners would be too, is that you're basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, you're basically an entrepreneur, where you were in Google and you were able to found the Grow with Google program, and you were able to get them to commit $1 billion, Joe, just so you know, billion dollars, and 1 million Google employee staff hours. There you go. I was waiting for that, Joe. Thanks so much.
I'll be honest.
And 1 million Google employee staff hours. So to commit to this amazing program. So my question is, and again, I think a lot of people want to know, is how did you do that?
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, at Google, a few things always are important to us. And one is really understanding the needs of our users. And so the whole idea of Grow with Google came about from a fundamental understanding of a giant mismatch that was happening in society. So 77% of jobs that pay more than $35,000 a year say they require a college degree, but only about a third of Americans have one. And we saw that mismatch and really wanted to help ensure that there were pathways for people without degrees to get into great jobs in our country, and certainly all of those jobs that pay more than $35,000 a year. And so we were really focused on how would you help solve that problem. And so our initial efforts were about how do you help people without a college degree get the skills they need to land one of these in-demand, high-paying jobs in tech or tech-adjacent fields. But one of the things we learned along the way, because we're always interested in what the data is telling us, is that about 40% of our learners actually had degrees.
Wow.
And so we really started to dig in and try to understand that a little bit better. Why were people who had degrees also doing our career certificate program? And what we learned is that they were actually making a really rational choice. If you look at MC Burning Glass data, it will tell you that especially if you have a humanities or a liberal arts degree like I do, you will become much more employable at much higher wages if you complement your degree with a high quality industry recognized credential, like the Google career certificates.
Level up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just as an example, I was a psychology major in college. Unfortunately, it turns out psychology majors are among the least well compensated. I didn't know that at the time. Exactly. So I think the data says psychology majors on average are making about $39,000 a year when they graduate. But if you complement your psychology degree with, for example, skills in data analytics that you could get from our data analytics certificate, you're likely to make something much more like $60,000 a year for an entry-level job, and obviously have access to hundreds of thousands more jobs than you would have. And so what we've really come to understand is that it's not a certificate or a degree. It's actually just as likely a certificate and a degree that could really, help people reach their economic potential. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're so excited about all of the higher ed partnerships that we've been able to do over the past few years, and about the most recent announcement that we made working with higher ed, is because I think to really create a more equitable and inclusive job market, and to meet the needs of all the employers who have millions of jobs open in these fields, it really does take all of us working together, right? Google can't do this alone. And so we're really excited about some of the partnerships that we've created with higher ed institutions.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Lisa, thank you so much for saying that. And Joe, I think now is the perfect time to talk about the announcement.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, Lisa, that was, of course, what we want to talk to you about, because there's a huge announcement last week. Of course, when people hear this podcast, it'll be 2 weeks later or so. But you announced really a slate of partnerships with higher ed institutions that have, if I could, let me see if I can lay it out and you correct me where I'm wrong, because usually I am. They're taking the growth Google curriculum, adding on pieces of curriculum from their institutions to let students leave with both some leadership and tactical skills, so to speak, in specific fields. You take it from there, because I probably just said it horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think this announcement is so exciting, and the main reason I think it's exciting is that I think it's the first time ever, really, that you could learn from top experts at Google and from world-class faculty in a truly affordable and accessible way, where no experience is required and no application is required.
Oh, yeah.
So what that means is anyone can learn from both Google experts and world-class faculty in this program. And the way that it works, as you described, is we offer the Google Career Certificates in a handful of fields. They're available for data analytics, IT support, user experience design, project management, and e-commerce and digital marketing. And those will teach you everything you need to know to get an entry-level job in any of those fields, regardless, as I said, of your educational experience or work experience. But now, in partnership with top universities, you can also get a more an industry specialization certificate. And so we've partnered with Columbia University, the University of Michigan, and the University of Illinois Geese School of Business, and Arizona State University, each of whom built kind of a companion certificate to our entry-level certificates, which give you more industry-specific knowledge. So,
and Johns Hopkins too. I think you missed Johns Hopkins, Columbia, Michigan, Illinois, and Arizona State. I think are the 5, right?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Actually, Johns Hopkins was the very first university to build on top of our certificate. When we in the early days, when we only offered the IT support certificate, Johns Hopkins actually built a companion certificate so that once you had the basics of IT support, you could learn healthcare IT. So Johns Hopkins, of course, that's where their expertise lies in healthcare, built a healthcare IT support certificate that was kind of built on top of the Google IT support certificate. And so the other ones, let me maybe just list who they are, and we can talk about why I think these are super interesting. So the University of Michigan built a certificate on top of our data analytics certificate. Theirs is to help with applying data analytics to the public sector. That was built by the Ford School of Public Policy at the University of Michigan, as well as their School of Information Sciences. Columbia, the Columbia Engineering School, built construction management on top of Google's project management certificate. Let's see, the University of Illinois Geese School of Business built financial analysis on top of our data analytics certificate. And Arizona State built a sustainability certificate also on top of our project management certificate.
Wow.
So many.
I think I got all of them. Yeah. And I think this, like I said, I think the most exciting thing here really is the ability to learn from Google experts and world-class faculty at these top institutions to get not only the foundational skills you need for jobs in these fields, but also kind of this industry specialization. And we just announced it last week. And I think what we'll see is a lot of folks who are just starting their careers continue to take these certificates, but also I think, especially given the industry specializations, that a lot of people who are career changers or who are shifting industry will use this as a way to stand out as a candidate and really get a leg up at getting into one of these industries.
100%.
Elvin.
So, wow, this is just fascinating, Lisa. So walk us through this process, because I'm trying to put myself in the student's shoes, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I, access this information? Is it through the school? Is it through Google? And you said there's no application process, or I have to apply to the school. Am I getting stackable credentials here where I can maybe get some credits and then apply for a degree? I mean, how does it all work?
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, when we built the Google Career Certificates, we wanted to ensure that people could stack them into degrees. So we worked with the American Council on Education, with ACE, to get the ACE recommendation for credit. So our certificates come with anywhere from 8 to 12 ACE credit recommendations, depending on which certificate it is. Yeah, it's a lot, right?
Wow,
That's a lot of college credit.
Yeah.
And so we've always cared about that. So anyone who takes a Google Career Certificate could earn college credit from it at a participating educational institution. So people like Northeastern, for example, have been giving college credits for the IT support certificate for, gosh, I think over 4 years now. They give 12 credits, which I think even they say on their website is like over a $6,000 savings on tuition.
Amazing.
My alma mater, by the way. That's great.
All right. What amazing school.
Go Huskies.
By the way, do you guys hear construction in the background? Do you hear this humming noise? No, you probably don't. No. I've got like somebody just drilling into the floor outside my office anyway. But I bring that up only to say that there's lots of disruption. You like the way I segue? There's lots of disruption in the world of higher education, Lisa. And when we spoke a long time ago, Grow with Google was expanding so rapidly. It was the conversation was around, you know what, higher ed is in trouble. Organizations like Google are going to provide these alternative credentials. More Companies are not requiring a degree, and so what does this mean for an institution who's in trouble? And all those things are still true. But you talked about this whole thing is evolving to where, as you said, offering this pathway to upskilling for those that didn't have a college degree. Then you find out that a lot of people who do have a college degree in the humanities or arts or other areas want to go back and get these certificates to make themselves more employable. And then now here's the Google Grow with Google / higher ed partnership model that I think really communicates a lot about what the future of higher education is really going to look like. And you think about, how higher ed and business and industry should and can and should be partnering. And it's been this evolving process versus, it's just this other choice. Is this, competition is going to be disrupting higher ed in these ways? It's this ecosystem of upskilling and reskilling and working and making more money and getting as many skills as you can. There was a lot there, but I want to recognize the whole evolution that you just laid out.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, as I said earlier, like none of us can do this alone. I mean, the world of work is changing so much so quickly, and the foundation of the education to work process really needs to include not only educational institutions and folks like Google who are trying to help people develop skills for the workforce, but I think the third component that's really important is the role that employers overall play. And one of the first things we did for the Google Career Certificate Program was create an employer consortium. And we have over 150 big national employers who are part of our consortium, and they hire the graduates of the Google Career Certificate Program. So we even have our own job board where every single job in that board, the Google Career Certificate is the appropriate credential to have. And so you're automatically qualified if you've completed. And what we did in this partnership with higher ed is we brought those employers to the table and we had them contribute and review curriculum. And I think that's really interesting. We've always done that for the Google Career Certificates, but we also brought them to the table to help the academic institutions ensure that the curriculum that they were creating for their certificates really qualified people for the jobs that these employers were hiring for. And I think really that triumvirate of Google plus the academic institutions plus these employers is what makes these certificates so valuable for the students who are learning these skills, because that they come with expertise from Google, with expertise from world-class faculty, but also with input from employers who are really hiring people for these jobs. And I think that's another really unique thing about this program.
Too many learners are being left behind by the current one-size-fits-all model of education. We here at EdUp and our friends at the Charles Koch Foundation see a better path forward. The Charles Koch Foundation supports innovators in education who are building and scaling new pathways to allow all learners to discover their potential. By changing the way we think about education, we can unlock opportunities for millions more Americans. To learn more about the Charles Koch Foundation support of individualized education, visit ckf.org.
So Lisa, Joe, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this is fascinating.
Don't mind interrupting me, Elvin. You are a co-founder.
Yeah.
Anybody else, I might have an issue with it, but I guess you can do whatever you want.
So Lisa, I'm fascinated by what you just said. So I'm trying to kind of, if I'm a president at a university, why would I not want to be one of the five, I guess, right? That is part. Are you choosing? Are you reaching out to the schools? Are they reaching out to you? How does that process work? Are you selecting? I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how it all works out. How did you get to these specific schools? And tell us that process. And again, if there are a lot of presidents that are listening, so, if a president says, I want to do this, what do they have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of hope that that a lot of the folks who are listening will be interested in doing some of this work. And actually, they can go to our website. It's grow.google/edu. And on that website, we explain a little bit more about how we work with higher ed institutions. And these 5 certificates are really important. And as I said, I think revolutionary, but there's lots of other ways that we're working with higher ed. And if people go to that website, you can see some examples of that. And I can also describe a few, because we've been working with hundreds of educational institutions with the Google Career Certificates.
Last time we talked, you had said there were like 250 partners or something like that of people that you were or will be working with. That was a year ago, I think, at least. So I know there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I think it's well over 300 educational institutions now, and that runs the spectrum from community colleges all to these large state universities like some of the ones we talked about, and also to really prestigious private institutions. So there's a bunch of ways. I love the creativity in higher ed. There's not one model of working with the Google Career Certificates. There's actually many models. And I think institutions are choosing the model that they think works best for them and for their students. So maybe I'll give a few examples.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So one that's I think pretty interesting, Arizona State University. Not only can you take like a Google Career Certificate, like the IT Support Certificate or the Data Analytics Certificate, and get ASU credit for it. Anyone who completes those certificates can also get earned admission to the university and then apply those credits toward their undergraduate degree. So I love that. It's a way to get access to an outstanding institution just by having completed the IT support or data analytics certificate. Another example, Rutgers University is actually offering the Google Career Certificates for free to all of their alumni.
That's smart.
That's a good one. The president was on the podcast. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is really smart. It shows that university is super committed, not just to students while they're there, but after the fact, committed to their economic futures. And I think a lot of schools feel that way. I think they feel like part of their job is not just to make, educated citizens who contribute to society, but also people who can earn a good living and prepare people for the world of work. And I think Rutgers offering it to all their alumni is a really good example of that. Another great example is what UCLA is doing. They are truly making our certificates easily accessible and available to everyone. They have one of the first and largest continuing education programs in the country. And so they are providing the Google Career Certificates to anyone at no cost through UCLA Extension, through UCLA X Open. And we're really, we're so excited about that as well. So hugely grateful to our partners at UCLA. Another interesting example is what the University of Virginia is doing. So the University of Virginia, I think, realizes how attractive these students who've completed the Google Career Certificates are, like how much grit, resilience, and commitment they have to their careers and futures. And so they are offering a $5,000 scholarship toward their online bachelor's program for anyone who has completed a Google Career Certificate.
Money.
Oh, I like that. So basically, anyone who has completed a certificate and they show it in their application materials to the school, they will automatically get a $5,000 scholarship. Or wow,
that's right, toward the online degree program at UVA.
Yeah. Right, because Elvin, you know this. It's like if you get through the Google certificate and you've done this at a pace and you've got the grit and you've persevered, I mean, you're just more likely to be retained when you start your degree or whatever. So they're willing to give you a scholarship discount essentially to come there because they feel like you're a more prepared student, right? And they have to put in less in student support because you've developed that grit through certificate. And Lisa, I think this is so important because I went to the site grow.google/edu, I think it was, right?
That's
And
right.
you do list some stuff here. And, one of them is granting credit for prior learning to expand access to degree programs. And of course, it's recommended that the Google Career Certificates are recommended for up to 12 college credits. But I can imagine if the university comes and says, yeah, we want to partner with you, but we don't want to grant any credit. I mean, there's less likely that there's going to be expanded partnerships. So it makes the institution have to be ready to grant the credit for those certificates, or at least significantly award some credit or something, right? Because of the work that it takes, including the certificates in the catalog, maybe developing an industry specialization. So there are some benchmarks, at least that and I've always said this too, that the tech community kind of makes higher ed move faster. And there is that foundation, right? So I would imagine when you go into these partnerships, to Elvin's point, Johns Hopkins and Columbia and other institutions, there is this conversation of we both have to move at the speed of the student, right? Because that is the speed at which the services have to move, right? Because that's who the demand is coming from.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that, actually. I think there are lots of institutions who are really trying to move quickly to meet learner needs. And I think there's just been so much great evolution. Like I said, the amount of creativity that we see and the different ways people want to work with us is tremendous. Purdue is another good example. Their online program made kind of mini bundles where they took our certificate content that's built right into the curriculum, and then they added additional curriculum from their faculty, so that you can get the Google Career Certificate, but also get a badge from the school as you're working toward your degree. And I think some of their bundles are even 30 or 40 credits.
Wow.
So really, really significant contributions from the university faculty, as well as, obviously what we're providing from Google. So lots of good examples, and I think there'll be a lot more to come. I mean, these are just some of the things we're seeing so far. But I think we'll continue to see ways that both we and the universities are adapting to make sure that we're helping people really prepare for this, new world of work, and as I said, access really great jobs so that they can build economic security for themselves and their families.
I like it.
That's a good one, Joe. My last question for you, Lisa, is that I'm going to focus in on the
Elvin, hold on. Let me interrupt you. You have to take the episode home. You got to ask all the final questions. You got to give me a break. By the way, I told Lisa before we started, I have coughing fits. I keep muting myself because I'm having these coughing fits off the microphone. So you can go ahead.
All right. So then if you want, I can just take you home and ask the final. But before I do ask the final, I do have one question, Lisa, about the employers, because I love that trifecta with the Google, Grow with Google, the higher education institutions, and the employers. So talk to us a little bit more about that process as well. How is that relationship happening? You reaching out to them, they're reaching out to you, and is higher ed helping out as well? The institutions connecting you with potential employers that are not within the system yet.
Yeah, I mean, employers are such an important part of this program, and partly from their perspective, it really helps their business needs. So, the PwC CEO survey shows that 4 out of 5 CEOs around the world say that finding people with the right skills, or actually not an inability to find people with the right skills for the jobs they have, has become an inhibitor to their company's growth.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, this is a significant problem for employers. And like, even just in the fields that we teach with the Google Career Certificates, there's 1.5 million open jobs in these fields in the US. So lots of opportunity to fill this gap, to meet employer needs while also helping people advance in their careers and their lives. And so it's always been a really important part of how we've thought about the Career Certificate program. And really employers play a few roles. First, as I said, even the curriculum that Google makes, we vet those curriculum with employers, top employers in each of those fields, because we want to make sure that we teach what those employers are hiring for. And I can give one great example. When we were building the data analytics certificate, one of the employers who reviewed the content was Deloitte. And they actually gave us the assessments that they use to test for mastery of the key softwares in data analytics, so SQL and R. They gave us their assessments that they use to test for mastery, and let us build those assessments right into the certificate.
Wow.
Yeah, big time. That's fantastic.
So they know that if people have graduated with a certificate, that they have those skills. And now the Google Career Certificate in Data Analytics is a preferred hiring credential at Deloitte. So really it solves the needs of the learners, but it also solves the needs of employers. And then, as I mentioned, we also have a job board. So all of the employers in our employer consortium can post jobs right into the board, right into that job board. And, candidates who have graduated with the career certificate from the certificate program, they can, they're qualified for every job on that job board.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. And
yeah, when you say job board, by the way, I think it's worth noting that it's not, who are we talking about? What type of companies? Well, Adobe, Deloitte, Lowe's, Verizon, of course, Google. We're not talking about small fish here. We're talking about big, large, companies dealing in technology that are saying, yes, we'll take these people who've graduated with their certificates and hire them. And you're keeping it kind of within the system, right? So that the folks who are accessing the certificate automatically have access to the job board so they can see what's out there, and it gives them hope. It gives them a reason to complete. And there's just a lot of reasons to do that. Besides the employer piece, there's a big student piece there to knowing that I can get hired when I'm done. And that keeps me in it, which of course validates the certificate as needed in the field. It's a whole ecosystem that you guys have built. It's very smart. That's all I wanted to say. I'll go back to coughing.
Anything you want to add to that, Lisa, to what Joe said?
No, I think that's right. I think it's creating an equitable and inclusive job market and helping employers find people with the skills they need. It takes all of us, right? And that's why we're so excited about all of our great collaborators.
That's great. And how many alumni do you have? Do you have stats on that? How many have actually received a certificate? How many started? I think you have a very high completion rate, if I remember seeing stats.
Yeah, we actually have graduated over 250,000 people in the last year and a half alone.
Wow, that's crazy. And okay, so I guess we can move on to the final two questions that we always ask every person, and hopefully you remember.
You're rusty, Alvin. That's okay. Keep going.
Hopefully you remember when we last had you on. So the last two questions is, what have we missed? What did Joe forget to ask you today? Because obviously I asked all the right questions, even though I'm rusty. What did he forget to ask you? There it is, about Grow with Google that we need to know, the audience needs to know. And number two, now that you've been doing Grow with Google for a while, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Gosh, I'm definitely not an expert on higher education. I'll leave that question to all the folks who come on your podcast that have expertise. I guess the space that we are thinking a lot about is, the whole education to work space. And I think we'll continue to see a lot of creativity and new partnerships in the space. And as I mentioned earlier, we're really hoping that additional institutions will want to build companion certificates with us, and that more institutions will offer college credit for certificate completers. I mean, these folks really are impressive, and I think they're committed to their futures and invested in really invested learners. And I think those are the kind of students that a lot of these institutions would be proud to have. And we're really excited to partner with higher ed, from community colleges all the way up to the largest universities, to really help people do this transition from education to work and get the skills they need for today's jobs.
Wow. Well, I love it. Lisa, I got to tell you, talking to you, each time we've talked to you, it's bringing us incredible insight in what the future of higher education looks like. And although you may not have wanted to answer that question entirely, you're rapidly changing it. So we'll just look to your work to see what it looks like in the future, because I think it's a good sign of where things are headed. In fact, when I got the article that came out about the partnerships, the growing industry with partnerships with higher ed and the certificates and all that with the partners you just named, I sent it to my team here at Lindenwood University and said, hey, when we talk about what the future of higher ed looks like, here's one tangible, critical example of what we can refer to, of how business and industry and technology are kind of converging in the best interest of the student for the future of work. And now we appreciate you so much. Somebody I appreciate, of course, is my co-founder and co-host today, Mr. Elvin Freitas, who's made his return on the mic. He had to literally dust it off. Elvin, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Lisa. Always appreciate your insights.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for including me. Excited to join you guys.
And of course, our guest, your guest today, here she is, Lisa Gevelber, and she's Chief Marketing Officer for the Americas region and founder and VP of Grow with Google. Lisa, did you have a good EdUp experience today?
It was tons of fun. Thank you guys so much.
We'll take that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. The purpose of education is to help learners discover their aptitudes and interests, develop their skills, and then deploy that knowledge to benefit themselves and others. The Charles Koch Foundation, a nonprofit grant-making organization, works with leaders in education to remove barriers that stand in the way of all learners reaching their potential. They support individualized and flexible models that improve access and quality for millions of Americans. They also support apprenticeship and upskilling programs that connect learners to in-demand jobs that match their skills and interests. The foundation is looking for new partners to challenge the status quo and transform the post-secondary education system. Learn more about their partnership opportunities and apply for a grant at ckf.org. You can also find them on Twitter at C Koch Foundation and LinkedIn by searching Charles Koch Foundation.